if you don't take a risk, or if you're scared about what an outcome can be, if you don't go and do it, you never know what the outcome is going to be anyway. So you might as well do it. And if you make a fool of yourself, then so be it. Learn from that mistake. But it was the best thing I ever did.
Definitely need to check it out then. How long has it been since you started going off and doing your own thing now, Nick?
It's been roughly around about a month. I've done my own thing before. This is like the third business I've had. I've sort of chopped and changed my thought process over the years, but yeah, we've been like 37Talent's been going for around, I don't know, since the 15th, around about mid-February, we've been going. And yeah, I've been working in the space for like near on 12 years now. So a lot of my clients sort of follow where I am, and just some of the work that I've done in the past, people tend to sort of come out and give me a call and say, hey, we need your help. Hence the reason I'm about 40 minutes or an hour late to this meeting this morning. It's just pretty tough for a lot of companies out there at the minute.
Yeah, is this like your first go at creating like a recruiting agency, or did you have one in the past?
Mate, I used to be a carpenter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so years ago, I think one of my best friends, she worked with one of my other best friends as well, and I come out of town hall, and she was all dressed up. She had a like compendium and like under her arm. I was like, where are you going? She's like, I'm going out for client drinks. And I was like, oh, I'd love to do your job. And she's like, nah, it's too silly, Nick. You're a carpenter. You'll never be able to do this job. So I was like, F you. And then basically one of my other friends, he was a very successful recruiter. And he's like, mate, what in 2009, he was like, literally, seriously, why don't you start recruitment? And I was like, mate, I don't know how the hell to do it. I was even scared to like go do like face-to-face meetings, and it was quite petrifying. But we literally like had a few beers one night, and the next morning I'd sold my car, all my carpentry tools, and basically raised about 15 grand. And I think I set up the business called Open Sourcing. And essentially that was to recruit PHP developers back in the day when they were building a lot of the early websites. I believe they still do build a lot of the websites in PHP. So we was like recruiting web developers back then. And then, yeah, the first year I went from 150 grand a year as a carpenter, and I earned $14,000. So basically I lost my home. I was homeless. I met someone at the time. She's like, and a lot of my other friends as well, like, just stick it out, stick with recruitment. You've gone this far. So the second year I earned 26K. I was like living on people's sofas, and the third year I was,
quick pause. Yeah. With those 1 or 2 years, how did you get those recruitment jobs? Were you just sort of reaching out to companies?
I was literally going on to Seek and finding ads that were from companies, then basically emailing companies saying, hey, I can get you PHP developers. And I made so many silly mistakes as well. Like I remember saying, sending this email blast out to a load of candidates, and it said open sourcing respects your privacy, and I didn't even know what BCC was, and I actually CC'd in like 600 people, and it went out to like News Corp, and then like there was creative designers like drawing pictures of a red-faced man smashing his hand on the desk, and like just everyone's going, this is too funny. Like, mate, I couldn't even type properly back then. I used to type like this. But mate, there's one guy, he worked for a guy, he had a company called Taguchi Mail. I think he used to work for Webjet. I can't remember his name, but I think he knew I was really green, but I had a good candidate. And he was like, man, this is a really great guy. And so I placed this guy at that company, and he gave me a few more jobs. And yeah, it was quite interesting just to see how it works. And do you know what? I wouldn't replace any of that tough times that I had, because what it's done now is it's taught me from the ground up how to learn lots of different learn from a lot of mistakes that I made. I don't know, I just keep, and it's also taught me to be very persistent. Because mate, at times I didn't even have money for a bus fare back to West Ryde. I actually ended up sleeping under Anzac Bridge with a blanket and my laptop and my phone. It's like The Pursuit of Happiness, like the Will Smith thing where he's sleeping in the toilet. And I was just slept on a building site. I remember it was just awful. And then the third year into that business, I was like, well, what's recruitment? What's sales and what's headhunting, what's advertising? And so I went onto YouTube and studied it like crazy. And then come back into that third year and I like literally made like $90,000 in 2 months. Wow. And I was like, wow, all this stuff actually works. So I've got YouTube, the early days of YouTube to really thank for a lot of my sort of trying to like bringing my career into somewhere where I could actually start understanding what I'm talking about and handling objections and everything else that clients gave me, and just it sort of took off from there. And then I remember renovating my ex-partner's terrace house, and I ran out of money after that. I think a year later, I decided, after doing a year building project on a house, to go and get a proper job in a recruitment company called Mosaic Recruitment, which was owned by a company called Skilled Group. And they were like Australia's biggest recruitment company for blue collar. So they've got like offshore oil rigs and helicopters and boats and all this stuff. But then they had offshoot businesses that they bought, like IT consultancy firms. And that's where I met a guy called Dan Shepherd and Matt Munson. And Dan was an ex-financial trading recruiter in London for Morgan Stanley. And I couldn't believe my luck when I met this guy, because like he was so knowledgeable in the financial trading space. And then obviously Matt was he was just a great leader. And essentially, I remember, I think it was about a year into that job, we come across something called Programmatic Advertising. And that's pretty much at the forefront of the advertising world. It's all data-driven advertising, targeted advertising, but that was built off the back of a very similar kind of technology to the financial trading technology, what they use in the financial markets. So there's like the way the advertising industry works here, you've got a buy side, a sell side, and then you've got data suppliers in the middle. And instead of buying and selling oil or stocks and shares, in this space that we work in right now is the publishers sit on the buy side, the sell side. They're selling their advertising space, and then the advertisers sitting on the buy side trying to buy that space or to serve their ads on a publisher's website. So Dan, because of his financial trading background, he undid this map. He's like, do you know what this means? This is a whole new industry that's about to explode. And I was like, no, haven't got a clue. So basically, we started working with a company called Prescreening, which is called a demand side platform. And essentially, they're the guys that find all they create like a real-time bidding auction between 3 different brands, and the most relevant ad gets to display company gets to display their ad on a publisher's website. And they didn't go too far because there was a lot of US technology players that had better technology. But what that did give us was a window into this, a foot in the door to this massive industry that we work in now. And then from there, I got a job at Yahoo. I couldn't believe that. I had to pinch myself. After I left Mosaic, they heard about some of the software engineers that I've been recruiting for Prescreening. And then essentially what I did is I went and did a 4-month fixed term contract at Yahoo, recruiting their PHP engineers and some data engineers and people like that. I got given, I think, 4 assignments. I covered all those off, and then I went and joined a company called Expand, which was a digital, one of the best digital recruitment companies in Australia. So, mate, it really just sort of started taking off from there. It had the hard times all through those early years of open sourcing. And then when we went to Mosaic, it was kind of quite a vanilla company. They just worked with all different kinds of like companies, but because I met this guy called Dan Shepherd, like that changed my life pretty much. And I've got lots to thank Dan for that.
How many years was that whole period that you just mentioned?
So I started open sourcing in 2009.
Wow.
September. I got my job at Yahoo on November 2013.
Wow. And it's crazy. So you were literally homeless, living, like you were sleeping under the bridge, and then
Yeah.
2 months later, you made 90K in 2 months.
Yeah, or a couple of years. Yeah, after I think that incident where I slept under the bridge, I think it was near Christmas time, and over Christmas, I was dating someone. She had a house as well, so it was okay at that point. I was staying on friends' sofas in West Ryde at the time, and renovating their house whilst trying to build a recruitment company. And yeah, I think over that Christmas, I really just studied everything on YouTube, and then I put what I learned to practice, and then all of a sudden it just went like that. But like I did need to get proper corporate recruitment training, hence wanting to go. I mean, I turned up to the job interview in a ripped pair of jeans. The guy was in like a suit and he had like really smartly dressed, and he had these cufflinks on. And I turned up in ripped jeans, a t-shirt, and he's like, "Mate, have you got any questions about the job?" I was like, "Yeah, when do I get my cufflinks?" So he shook his head. And then, about a week later, I got accepted into that business. Then Matt and Dan both left that business. Matt went and took over Expand Group, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, and then Dan went, and then I was like, "Well, you guys leaving me here?" And basically, Expand did the on-site recruitment for Yahoo. So essentially, we're classed as Yahoo employees. What we got paid by Expand, and that was my into Expand Group really. And then I worked from say 2014 up to 2016. Expand, we're working with all global media advertising agencies. We're working with Google, doing all the contract recruitment. What else were we doing? Pretty much everything that's in the top flight, even Facebook, I think, people like eBay, Gumtree. That's where I really got good, like, exposure to like the top end of the stuff that we do now. And I remember meeting my biggest client was a company called Comcast. And Dan couldn't make a meeting, and I had to actually take a step. When I joined Expand, I was a recruiter, but then I had to become a candidate manager. And what that meant is that I don't talk to clients, I just find candidates. And that was what a lot of people would see that as a demotion, but that really gave me a good way of building my confidence, talking to people in the industry and getting a good understanding of it. And I remember, I think it was like 2015, I got a promotion into just before my promotion, actually. I contacted this company called Comcast, because I've been following them since 2013. And I said, "Mate, I've been following your business for like the last 2 years, and I've noticed that you're coming over to Australia." And he's like, "Well, what do you know about our business?" I said, "The only thing I know is a guy called Jag DeGaulle in San Francisco." He goes, "How do you know him?" I said, "I've been connected with him for a couple of years, but that's about it." I said, "I'd really love to find out a bit more about your business, and I've got an understanding of it, but I'd love to hear it from your perspective." And he invited me for lunch, and I was going to bring Dan with me, and that day Dan couldn't make it. And I was like, "What do I do?" Like, I'm not that confident to meet someone of this level. He's like the managing director. So I phoned him up and said, "Mate, I need to rearrange this meeting." He's like, "Well, I'm sitting in the restaurant right now. Why do you need to rearrange?" I said, "Because my boss can't make it." He's like, "Mate, you don't need your boss. You're the one that reached out. Like, you come down here." I goes, "Yeah, but I don't normally do these things without him there." He's like, "Mate, just get down here." Anyway, I went and joined him, and he's like, "Mate, why are you scared of meeting me?" I was like, "Because I was pretty nervous." He's like, "Here's a beer." So we got chatting, and all of a sudden I was realizing, do you know what? I don't need this guy to come and sit with me and do all the talking for me. I just need to have the confidence in myself and believe in myself that I can actually have these conversations. And yeah, basically off the back of that, I showed him an idea for a company called the Growth Architects, and he's like, mate, you should do that in about a year's time. But right now why don't we talk business? And basically I landed this company called Comcast as a client, and they had like 20 open vacancies. And so I come back to the office after that meeting fairly tipsy, and my boss and everyone's in there like Matt and Dan, and I was like, you never guess what, I've just pulled Comcast as a client. And everyone's like, yes, you're amazing. And like, I was buzzing from that. And that meeting there has been instrumental because Andrew Double has been a big mentor of mine, pretty much from that moment on. And we're good friends to this day. And also he's helped me build my businesses. The next one, the Growth Architects, he signed me up, and then he's also like referred me out to his people. And I think the biggest learning thing I had from that point is if you don't take a risk, or if you're scared, or it doesn't matter how much you're sort of scared about what an outcome can be. If you don't go and do it, you never know what the outcome is going to be anyway. So you might as well do it. And if you make a fool of yourself, then so be it. Learn from that mistake. But it was the best thing I ever did.
Most definitely. Tell me about that second company. What is the Growth Architect? Is it similar to what you're doing now or different?
Yeah, 100%. So like the Growth Architects, I set up in 2016. And mate, to be honest, like I was still fair. I used to be a carpenter, so I know how to fill roles, but I didn't have a business mindset back in the day of how to scale a recruitment company, or how to and then grow it and then employ people. I just saw it as a big piggy bank. And it was more of an extension of my bank account rather than looking at it as a growth opportunity and then hiring people. But I think I started the Growth Architects with the intention of building a very similar company to expand. So although it was just myself, it did look like a much bigger company than what it was. I was doing all the marketing, the built the website. I was on YouTube, like how to build a website in WordPress. So I learned how to build the website. I done literally everything, the accounting, you name it. So what that gave me is a real good like insight on how to build a recruitment company from scratch, like properly. This is like the open sourcing 2.0. But like now we're in the big league of in terms of companies. So we're working with companies like the Trade Desk, who's now one of the world's top 100 businesses. That's like in four. I think it got rated in the top 10 businesses to work for globally.
Wow.
I had clients like the Trade Desk, they've supported me, Comcast, working with a company called Unruly, which is part of News Corp, and many other different businesses that I was working within the advertising technology space. So it was a really good time. It was really good, really, to just learn how to sort of go out on my own and build my confidence to know that, you know what, I can actually do this. I don't need any kind of bosses, and the people in the industry support me, because it's some really good friends in the advertising technology world. And yeah, it was just a really good experience to learn how to sort of just go out on my own and have that confidence to do it, really.
Wow. And is it like as simple as like a client would give you, say, hey, we need 20 positions to fill. Can you go ahead and fill these 20 positions, and each hire you get 20%? So like, is that how it works?
Without disclosing my fees. So essentially how we work, I'm probably one of the most expensive recruiters in Australia. Our fees are usually around about 22 to 20%. That's because we are a specialist headhunting business. Like where I think the key differentiator that I put forward to all my clients is that versus other recruitment companies, is that what happens in the recruitment world is they'll go and take a brief from a client, then they'll go and copy their job ad from Seek and then put the same job ad up pretty much, but just rewritten in a different format up on Seek, and then compete against the person trying to find that candidate, they say it's the sales manager. They'll go and copy their job ad, rewrite it so it's slightly different, but it's the same thing. And then their job ad will compete against the client's job ad. Whereas I'm a headhunter. I don't class myself as a recruiter. I think recruiters, what they do is they'll put a job ad up, they'll wait for all the candidates to apply to the role. They'll pick the best 3, then they'll send them to, or maybe 5, and then they'll send them over to the client and hope one sticks. Whereas I handpick everyone. I've got a laser focus in terms of being able to, I know this industry inside out now. A lot of my friends run these businesses. I've become friends with these people now. So I'm very close to the ground in terms of knowing what's going on in these businesses and the types of people they need. And also, I haven't mentioned as well, I actually started a meetup whilst I was at Expand called the Sydney Mobile Marketing Meetup, where we scaled that from having 40 people at the initial meeting to around about 2,500 members. So each month we used to do get one of my clients to come present at Expand, and we used because we had a lovely office in Hickson Road, and we'd have maybe 40 to 60 people every month turn up, and it'd be about different topics on the industry. So not only did I work in that space, but I had my own meetup as well that was getting me really close to all these people. So I was kind of a bit of a face in that space. But going back to how we operate is that we're a headhunting firm. So you won't see any job ads Seek or LinkedIn or Indeed or any of those companies, any of those job boards. We sort of fly under the radar and sort of handpick everyone. I even call someone at their desk if I have to. It's made it a bit hard since COVID because everyone's working from home. But essentially, we literally handpick the talent, and we send maybe 2, maximum 3, but very rarely. And we usually make it a pretty hard decision for our clients to make an interview time if they've got 2 or 3 of our candidates. We're hoping that they're going to want to hire all 3 and then find there's only one role. We want to make it as difficult for them as possible to choose which one it is.
That's a good metric, finding so many good applicants, 3 amazing applicants where it's hard for them to pick. So the other day I was talking to a friend who works at Roblox as a recruiter, and he's sort of sharing me his process, how he's hiring a lot of developers, a lot of sort of managers within the technical role, and he would daily he would go on LinkedIn, search strings, different sort of keywords using LinkedIn Recruiter. Then he would sort of, let's say if he reaches out to 100, he'll message them on LinkedIn using email credits, as well as send them into an email flow with 3 emails. And if he sends out 100, 10 might reply on LinkedIn, 10 might reply on emails, and he'll go from there. And then if he finds someone's the right fit, he'll go ahead and sort of put together an offer. Obviously, he would have to get approval from people above him to say, hey, is this offer okay to send out to this person, and it would go from there. Is that sort of similar to what you do, or is it different?
So your friend has a very good process, but that to me sounds very recruitment focused. It's almost like a numbers game, or if we text out, or if we message 100 people, we get 10 responses and then send 3 candidates, hopefully one sticks kind of methodology. Whereas the difference is that I know who I'm targeting. If someone says, hey Nick, we need an agency sales manager, I don't work with every company in this industry. I work with a handful of the best businesses, and then I work across all of their open vacancies. So my job is to actually build entire company functions. So if I use Comcast or Media IQ as an example, Comcast have got maybe a senior data analyst, a regional insights person, senior product, senior seller, sales director. I go in and build out their entire company function. But because I tend to work with fewer companies, but on all of their vacancies, because I have the bandwidth to and the understanding to do that. That's what I've really sort of my key differentiator is. And in terms of going after the right people, a lot of the people I go after, I probably 9 times out of 10, I know somebody that knows that person. And I would just say, hey, mate, can you refer me over to this person? I really need to talk to them about a role. I know they're over at XYZ company over there. I think they'd be perfect. I know exactly who I need. So I don't waste my time putting 100 people in a list, because I can just go, right, I want John Smith over there because he's working at this company. I know that he'll be perfect over at this company. And then I'll make it my mission to get hold of that guy or girl, whoever it may be. And I will tell them all about the businesses and how it's going to actually benefit their career, and essentially get them in front of my clients. And the way I sort of position it is that if they go down and invest an hour of their time to hear about an opportunity and they like what they hear and want to lean forward, then I can help them through the process. If they don't like what they hear, I mean, they've just wasted an hour of their life, but they haven't really wasted it because they made a new connection. They've actually found out about a really cool company. Maybe the role wasn't right or the culture wasn't right, but at least they get to make an informed decision about what they want to do and who that company is. And then I leave it in their hands. And I think that's the best way. I don't really play around with talent that's in the active market. Most people we work with are currently loving their job. I love my role, I love my team. And so, well, that's perfect, because it means you're a high performer, you're really loyal to your company. But hey, have you thought about maybe looking at this company over here? Because it's going to give you a stepping stone to Google. You may get stock options. They're probably going to float on the stock market very soon. The health insurance, trips to San Francisco once a year. Are you currently getting that? Are you currently getting that in your role? Oh, no, I'm not. Well, why don't you have a conversation with these guys? Find out if the job's for you, and then basically make your mind up from there. If it's not, I'm not going to drive a round peg into a square hole. You're currently happy. You just told me you love your job, so you're not missing out on anything if you don't like what you hear when you go to my client's business. But 9 times out of 10, they love the roles. I mean, I was part of the company, the trade desk that I work with. I think I placed around about, I don't know, maybe 11 or I reckon between 11 and 16 people pre-IPO. And just one of those guys I placed, he was on 120K base salary, plus a bonus component, but he got a handful of stock options. He recently walked away from that business with $3.4 million when they floated on the stock market. So if you times that 3.4 million, sorry, that's just one. And I probably put, if you say it's just a minimum, let's just call it 10.
Yeah.
There's 30 odd million bucks worth of revenue. Those people, or $30 million, they probably earned a collective group of people, based on the knowledge that I have that this company's going to go far. I mean, the word on the street back in the day in Forbes magazine and stuff like that was like, if you have the trade desk stock, don't trade it, keep it. The amount of candidates that I said, look, this company is going to go gangbusters. And they're like, I think I'd rather stay at News Corp. I'm like, really? And then the amount of people that phoned me after they went on and they floated on the stock market and say, hey, can I get a job where they offer those at the trade desk, where they offer those really great, the stock options? I said, look, mate, I'm sorry, that boat's already floated. Sorry, sales, like you've missed out on the opportunity. So there's a lot of things that these companies that we work with, where Comcast, for example, they're still a private business and they're probably going to IPO in the next 12 to 24 months. So if you do get a job at one of these, at this company, then it could potentially be another scenario where you can make a lot of money from the stock options. It's not just Comcast. I just use those 2 companies as an example. There's many companies out there now. If you pick the right company, like Afterpay, for example, if you got in an Afterpay, if you bought stocks in Afterpay right now, you'll be laughing. It's just picking the right businesses to work for, and just being open. And I think a lot of candidates send me, they say, hey, can you send me the job description? I'm like, yeah, I can send you the job description, but I've just pretty much described the role for you. Why don't you go, I said a job description essentially is just like a shopping list. Why don't you actually go, if I can put you in front of the right person, why don't you go and have a chat with them? And then they're going to tell you a lot more. They're going to tell you about the company direction, where it can take your career, what the culture's like, why they joined the business. I said, are you going to get that from a job spec or a job description? No. So if you can get a recruiter that's able to put you in front of the decision maker at a really great company, then people should always invest that hour of their life to go and have that conversation. And even if they're really happy, I think that's the biggest mistake people always say is that, oh, sorry, Nick, I'm really happy in my role. Well, that's exactly the reason why I want to call you. I don't want to really work with someone that hates their boss and hates their company and I can't wait to get out of here, because it means that they're probably not that passionate about where they're at right now in terms of their career. But when you get someone that's actually loving what they do, they're the top salesperson, well, why should I leave? I'm the top seller. Because right now you're in a trajectory to keep going up. If you go to a new company, new challenge, you've got a fire under your backside because it is going to be a bit of a ramp up, then you're going to continue to progress. It's when people get comfortable and they stay at businesses too long, they're like, oh, I'm really comfortable in my role. Well, where's the challenge in that? Like, seriously, I don't, that's why I say to people, like, you should always like get yourself into a position where you're not comfortable, where you're outside your comfort zone, where you know that if you're going to go into that role, it's, oh God, like this is quite stressful, but it's good stress to have. Like if you're constantly evolving, then you're always going to progress your career. But if you get too comfortable, then you end up petering off. And at the end of it all, you start, I don't know, the people that are comfortable don't tend to be very passionate about where they want to take their career. If they've been out of business for 5 or 6 years, they tend to become quite stagnant, and it's harder to put people like that into jobs.
Interesting. One of the things I really loved how you talked about how your recruiting process is, you sort of know who to reach out to, you're sort of taking a personal approach to finding the perfect candidate for that role, and you're not sort of spraying and praying. And then I guess you're sort of meeting these people through these events that you're putting together, and you're sort of just meeting people organically. How do you how do you like organize? I can't say that word, but how do you organize?
I'm the worst in the world. And this is terrible. It's all in here. I've got this ability to have conversations with people. As I say, I'm working with, I've got, I don't know, 20 odd vacancies right now with a handful of clients. And I may have talked to, I don't know, yesterday, probably 10 people. And that's not a lot in recruitment. Oh, he should be talking to 20, 30 people a day, but I'm not a numbers person. I don't work on, okay, well, I need to phone 30 people.
How do you know the 10? How do you remember the 10 to pull out?
Oh, mate, I just so where I'm going with this is that I will talk to maybe a salesperson, an insights analyst, and all different personalities as well. I got like a photographic mind, but I know everyone's salary. They tell me that they're going on holiday. And my partner, she's always saying, Nick, you need to put this in the database, which this is my learning. I don't call it a weakness, but somewhere I need to improve on. But I just have a very good memory, and it's just come through years and years of doing it a certain way that I've learned. I think there's some people go, oh my God, like that's just madness. Like I don't know how you can remember all that. And you know what? It's probably not good to have all that information in your head because you can probably use it for other things. But yeah, essentially in my head, I'm just picturing, like, I don't know, I just picture them in the role. I know who I'm talking to. The regional insights analyst over at 10. She's on 160K base right now. She's looking for 180. She's currently got 4 other opportunities. The sales guy that I've got down in Melbourne, currently interviewing at Spotify. But he's just been approached by Google for another role, but he's the 3rd stage. Like it's all up here.
Do you focus on one sort of role, one vacancy at a time, or do you look at all 20 and sort of?
I look at everything. So as I'm sure, I literally live in LinkedIn. I literally live there. That's my home. And as I'm searching, I'll go on sprints. Right, even this morning, I got up like 4 o'clock this morning. I just get on there and I do my regional insights analyst role. I go and search those guys. I screenshot them on my phone. I need to talk to that person, and then I'll maybe fire up a few LinkedIn messages. Hey, look, I've got an opportunity on par with Google. Like, technology companies, same kind of tech, but smaller business. Can we chat? And then, yeah, just get chatting, like, and just, it's kind of like a snatch and grab. I don't want to spend hours. That's what I say. If I spend hours and hours like getting 100 candidates that are not relevant, I'm just wasted all that time. Whereas if I go for maybe 2 or 3 that are super, super relevant to that business that I know, if say they're working over at Snapchat and TikTok, say there's a sales manager at Snapchat that's working in agency sales, well, I'm sure that person over at Snapchat will be very relevant to TikTok. So it's about like choosing your paths. The people that you take have to be relevant to the business that you're working with. So instead of like that spray and pray approach, or send 100 people a message about a job and hopefully 10 will come back, it just doesn't work. I'd much rather.
How much percent of the people you sort of know within your network or through mutual friends, and how much percent would be sort of cold outreach on LinkedIn?
Oh man, I'd say 50-50.
Okay.
But I've learned, so I've actively studied sales. I recruit all the way up to managing director level. So when I'm reaching out, if I've got an assignment for MD, for example, they're probably some of the hardest objections you're ever going to get, or heads of sales. So I've actively studied sales. Well, I just learn from everyone that's around me. Like I learn from all my partners that I work with. I've got mentors in the industry. For me, I think sales is very important, because you only got a very small window. Like if I'm phoning someone at their desk, it'll be like, hey, my name's Nick Squires. Don't worry, I haven't told anyone where I'm calling from, because I've called through reception and said, hey, can I speak to Andy Smith, please? And then they put me through to Andy. I'm saying, look, don't worry, Andy. I know you probably can't talk to me right now. I'm a headhunter that specializes in the tech industry, work with companies like TikTok and blah, 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 blah. Probably not a good time to have a chat, but I haven't told anyone where you're calling from. Can I grab your mobile number? Yeah, no worries. And they give me the number, then I phone them up after. But you've got to be really, I never sit down at my desk. Like me doing this right now is difficult because I have to sit down. One day I did like 17 kilometers in my office on the phone, walking and talking, because I can't sit at a desk. I think I've got ADHD, or I don't know. I definitely think I've got ADHD. So
where's the passion come from? You're like really into recruiting. You're really like, what about recruiting do you love?
I give up a carpentry career, which I equally loved, and I love building houses. I love building. Like I worked on some really like some of the wharfs down in Sydney, like some really amazing jobs doing like fit out. I built jewelry shops. I built restaurants, like Hugo's in the Cross back in the day when that was around, and like really high-end joinery stuff in the Westfield shopping centers. And I used to step back and look and go, yeah, man, I just built that. But the reason I am passionate about this is because instead of building houses or shops or whatever, I get to build businesses now. And I look back at them and go, wow, I've built a massive portion of that business, and they're growing exponentially, and I'm proud of that. And yeah, I probably love it.
Have things changed with the whole work from home, remote sort of talent, and how, Facebook is going to go like 50% remote? Has that changed the sort of recruiting space now that you can recruit worldwide?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the best, some people suggested recruiting. I've actually recruited people internationally when the visa situation over here is a lot freer. So recruiting into it's just the same conversation in a different time zone. So that's not really a thing. But I think where you're going to get value from someone like myself is someone that knows a local network. Like I met you at that industry event the other day at Criteo, for example, that they were sponsoring. But I think if you can localize the where you're working, like you get to know people a lot better. But in terms of like the industry changing, it is changing. Like a lot of companies thought their USP was like, oh yeah, we've got a massive, great big bar in our office. We've got a beer keg, we've got ping pong tables, we've got pong, and we've got basketball nets and hoops. We've got Space Invaders. It's basically like a giant fun house, like it's like a child's playground for adults, basically. But that used to be the cool thing back 5 years ago. And people are like, oh yeah, you're so cool, you have all this stuff, but you get free lunches at your desk. And essentially all that's to do is keep you in the office to keep working. But now with COVID and everything else, it's like, well, what are the perks that you offer me? I think the biggest thing that's changed is that flexibility piece. No longer do you have to be in an office to do your job. You can, as long as you've got a phone line and an internet connection. I think a lot of people have proven to all the CEOs and managing directors and managers out there that, hey, look, I'm actually a responsible adult. And do you know what? So what if I'm dropping my kids off and coming online a little bit later? I'm still getting my work done. Like, hey, if you can give a bit of trust to your employees to let them have that flexibility, maybe they want to go for a surf in the morning, or drop their children off, or I don't know, whatever the hell they want to do. If you allow your employees to have that flexibility, then they're going to keep really, really like build your business and grow it, because they feel that they've been empowered. Like for years, it was all about, you must be in at 8:30 in the morning. You're weak if you go home if you leave at 5:30, you're not you're not one of the top employees. And you had that culture where people would stay. Even I've done it, like work till 10 o'clock in the office and 8 o'clock at night. And like when I was working at Expand, that was bloody brilliant, mate. We got to go to like Bali, I went to the big billers trips, like with the biggest billers in the company. All go to Bali. I went there twice in a matter of months, and we were treated like kings. And what I sacrificed for that is in turn I'd be getting home as soon as I get home back on the laptop. And I'm massively passionate anyway because I love my job, but things like I had 2 stepchildren, and a lot of the time that I would have spent with them got put to one side because I was working. And it's not just my situation, you can imagine that happened all the time. But now people get to spend time with their children, they get to maybe look after their sick parents or whatever it may be. I think COVID's really changed that. And companies that don't offer that flexibility and still have that mindset of, oh, you need to be in the office because we need to be sitting watching over you, they're the ones that are going to lose. They're going to lose all their great employees are going to leave because they want to go somewhere that's flexible.
So something I heard recently, the market has changed from being a employer's market to an employee's market. What does that mean? How much power and leverage do employees have? Is there like a shortage in workforce and labor?
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, the talent market is extremely tight right now. It's great to be able to build. As I said to you earlier on, I don't want to work with every company in Australia, but I guarantee if I went out and did a lot of business development right now and told them I had the most amazing candidates in the world, they'd want to sign me up. For an example, I think companies are literally phoning me on a daily basis saying, hey, Nick, can you come and work with us? But there's no point trying to work with everyone because right now there's no talent to fill all those positions. If you bring on these new businesses, you still got to deliver to them. And then if you don't deliver to them, you're going to end up shooting yourself in the foot. You're better working with a small concentration across all of the roles they have in the business, opposed to trying to work with everyone. But in terms of the talent, mate, there's no fresh people coming in from Asia, from the UK or the US because of COVID. So, and then you've got a lot of people that have left to go back home because they were worried about if they were here and would they get back into their country. And what's happened is that there's a battle for talent right now.
Yeah.
And there's companies literally paying people way above the rates. Let me just say, there was a guy last year who had 3 or 4 years experience. I won't say from what company, but I found him a job at one of my clients' businesses. He was on 82k base. By the time I'd finished my conversation and got him a job offer, he accepted a counteroffer of 120k.
Wow.
So he basically got a 40K pay rise in 6 weeks because the company that I was going to take him from was so scared of losing him, they just threw $40,000 at him. Now that's okay because he's just got a 40K pay rise, but essentially what he did is bend him over a barrel and say, well, look, if you don't give me this, I'm going to go to this company that Nick's got.
What should have that company done? Like if they let the employee go, there's huge losses and you have to train someone new, 6 months to find a new person. Was that a smart move on the company's part, or what would have been a smart move?
I'd say it was a smart move on the company's part, and it's look, the counteroffer is right now it's the weapon of choice for businesses. But on the candidate's part, it is a really silly move. Because at the end of the day, if there's a downturn in the market, everything opens up and we've got an influx of people coming in from overseas. And then it goes from a candidate's market to a company's market, but they've got so much talent, it's just hard to pick. And then there's a downturn. Who do you think they're going to look at? If that company then goes, okay, well, we've just lost a major client, we need to let some people go. They're going to look at the person that accepted the counteroffer that said, hey, by the way, I was going to leave my business, but you pay me an extra 20 grand for what I'm worth. Who do you think they're going to fire first? It's that guy there, because he basically already said, look, I'm unloyal, but you just paid me more money to stay.
What's your thoughts on recruiting? This is something that Google does. They hire generalists, people who sort of they maybe have an arts degree, laws degree, they sort of a generalist, or hiring people straight out of uni with super high sort of GPAs. What's your thoughts on those two things?
I think it's a really smart move. I've got some clients that I work with that hire, there was a company called Unruly. They're owned by News Corp. I think they got acquired by Tremor Video. They're still based in the News Corp business, but they used to hire people like grads, and then they didn't necessarily have to have a background in advertising. They'd train them up from scratch, and they would come through the system. They would come on as a digital exec or something like that, they call that. And they would train them up. And I think taking people with different backgrounds that may not have studied within a certain field or sector is a smart thing to do. Taking people straight out of uni is a really good way. You're opening up, because you're fostering young talent from the get-go. And I think it's a really great thing to do. And companies that look at people from different backgrounds that have skills that could, once they're upskilled in that industry or company, they can really take off. I think, businesses that do that kind of training are very smart.
What would be like a KPI that would look for in a student? Would it be just like any graduate with super high GPAs, or what would it be a good KPI?
Look, it all comes down to passion. Like one of my favorite, I hire all the way up to managing directors, right? And from a business sense, like the fees are ridiculously high, and it can be a 100K fee to hire someone that's a big managing director, say over at Amazon or somewhere like that, and you place them into one of my client businesses. But my favorite, that's huge. But my favorite people to work with are grads, and they are harder to hire than a managing director, because the reason why is there's so many grads. What it comes down to is not how high their marks are in their exams, is how passionate are they about the business that they're going forward to. Like the advice I give them is, mate, you've got no career history. There's 100 people with the same degree that you have, no matter whether you've got a high marks in it. It may differ if you're going like as a doctor or a lawyer, but within digital marketing, we just use that, and technology. If you're a grad and you've got an opportunity, I knocked on your door, I let you know about an opportunity. The biggest thing that they can do is research the company. And obviously, say they want to get into digital marketing, for example, and I come along with an entry-level role for one of my clients, like Media IQ, for example, and they may have some work experience at I don't know. I placed a chef at the Trade Desk once, and they're one of the world's best advertising technology platforms. And then what got that guy through is that he did a digital marketing degree, but he's working as a chef. And I phoned up the MD at the trade desk at the time, Darren O'Broderick, and said, look, I've got this guy. He's so bloody passionate. Like, I can just feel his energy. He's like buzzing. And that's what gets you through into these types of roles. So I think, yeah, if you do get approached, like, any advice to any people that are listening to this is like, well, if you want to work as an advertising, an account manager, or become a sales manager, or whatever that may be in the future, or a web engineer, and you've got the key skills you've learned at uni, then what will get you through the door? What will separate? How are you going to separate yourself from all the other hundreds of people with the same degrees? And that comes down to a massive amount of passion. Going into the interview, so what do you know about the famous question? And even people, managing directors, get asked this question when they're interviewing. So tell me about what you know about our business. If you've not got a good answer to them, and you go, well, you're some kind of this or you're that, and instantly you get a big red cross. But if you go, look, you're founded in 2006, you've got 4 different offices across the globe, you've got 200 people currently working for your business, like, showing that you've done your homework goes a long way. You might even not be 100% fit from a cultural perspective. But the fact that you've gone and researched the business and shown you've done that, that's where you're really going to do well for yourself. And that's what separates the people, that separates the winners from the losers in that respect.
Now, as a recruiter, is there any way for you to filter out for compassion or passion?
Yeah, if I'm on a phone call to someone and they're just, oh yeah, like, yeah, this is not very good. Yeah, it's all right.
Is there any pre-screening things you could do before, or do you jump on a call with everyone?
Mate, I'll just pretty much jump on the call. Mate, to be honest, this is what makes it really hard, right? I can't give you a definitive answer. I'll just look at someone that they may be on LinkedIn, for example, and they've got a digital marketing degree and they've done 6 months at a very small advertising agency doing social media ads. If I get onto that call and that guy's like, that girl or guy's like, oh, wow, this is really interesting to me. Like, and I said, well, why do you want to get into this space? Well, I want to do X, Y, and Z when I'm older. And like, this is where I see my career going. They've got a clear mindset of where they want to go in the future. So where do you want to go in the next 2 to 3 years? I want to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, great. So if I got you an opportunity here, this is actually going to give you that experience to get to where you need to go. Oh, wow, that's really cool. So that spark. Like, if people are like, understand there's different people that can be quite introverted, but even introverted people, like, can show some form of excitement and wanting, like, I think it just comes down to how much someone wants something.
Now, what's the biggest convincing factor to convince employees to switch over? Is it money, status? What's the biggest thing?
Mate, I'd never sell any opportunity on money, because that's not the key driver for anyone. I think it comes down to fulfillment of what the key drivers are, where an opportunity essentially is going to take their career in the next, say, 2 to 4 years, and how that company is going to treat them. I think that's the biggest, and how they're going to learn and what mentorship they're going to get.
Makes sense. And I guess, tell me about what's the plan for the next few years for you? Do you see yourself sort of duplicating yourself with sort of new recruiters and have them sort of shadow you, have them learn what you do, and then have them help you recruit for more sort of companies?
Yes, it's funny you say that, because I'm teaching my partner right now how to do my job, and like, she's doing really well, and she's almost like my human intelligence and not my artificial intelligence. She's learning how to do my job. She's shadowing me. And I've taught a couple of people before, like the people I taught over at Expand, one ended up at Google, and one's at Atlassian, and one ended up at Uber and stuff like that. And I have a bit of I'm not very structured, so I can be quite frustrating to learn from. But I think, the plan for the next 2 years is just to keep growing this business. And this time it's my third shot at doing this, is actually to build a really cool recruitment company where it's, that I just want to build a talent business that is not like this spray and pray approach business, that we're actually true specialists to the word, that we actually understand our industry we work in. And we're not just looking at job specs and seeing like candidates as bags of cash. Because that's how I started. The mindset is, if you're trolling through Seek, you see a job for a sales manager or an analytics person or a software engineer, you phone up the client, hey, I noticed that you've got a role on for a software engineer. And then essentially you're phoning up a candidate, hey, I've got this job over at XYZ company. And all you're doing is like, you're looking at them as just a way to make money. You're not adding any value there. So I think the way we really want to run this business is that we understand the industry as much. So hence why you will meet me at these events, and you will, I've invested a lot of money myself going to events like AdTech or iMedia brand summits, where the tickets are like in their thousands, but they're quite expensive. But like getting your face known in the industry circles and getting out there and meeting people and actually being part, I'm part of the advertising and marketing technology industry. I'm not a recruiter that works outside of that. I'm part of the industry. I'm actually in it. So I want our business to be part of it, and the people that we bring into the business to become part of this amazing space that we work in, and be seen as true specialists within the space.
That's amazing. And I guess on that topic, do you have any tips for our audience when it comes to networking? Because that's something you're really good at. Like the moment I met you, you were like all about giving value and not really expecting anything in return. And that's sort of what I try to do as well. And you're really good at that. And then you're buying tickets and you're really open. Any tips for networking?
Man, always add value. Like, you don't go in there expecting anything from anyone. Because if you go in from that mindset, it's pretty much a loser's mindset. You're going to lose straight away, because until you like add value by maybe introducing someone that you know, or even like the partners that I work with now, I say, hey, have you got a partnership with this person, or do you know so-and-so is looking for this product? And just like helping people, and it's just help people don't just do stuff for your own agenda. Think of others. And then once you're in there, my biggest advice is have a couple of beers as well, if you drink. That always helps loosen the, just like get things going. But like on a serious note, I think, just having the, like, even if you feel like really nervous about going up to someone, and I still get a little bit nervous to this day. I used to be quite a shy person when I was younger, believe it or not, but you go, oh, should we go and talk to that person? They're probably too senior for me to speak to, but who cares? Like, they're just people. Just go up, let someone introduce yourself, and just ask them about them. Like, just say, hey, what do you do? Like, mate, I'm really interested to talk to you. I've been following you for a while. I know you're busy. Can you just give me 2 minutes of your time to give me a bit of a synopsis about how you got into this space and what you love about it? And then just get them opening up with questions. I think just having the confidence to, even if you're not confident, just take a risk. And without taking risks, there's no reward. And the reward for taking a risk in a networking event or something, it could lead to endless possibilities if you go out and you just put yourself out there. I think just getting out there and being seen at these events, and I think listening is probably the biggest thing that you could probably do. That's the biggest skill it's a skill that's overlooked. It took me a long time to learn that, and it's still always working on that. But I think listening is the key thing, and just getting out to whatever your chosen field is, getting out to events and meeting the people there that turn it all over.
Last question. Over the last few months, I've been really studying the Apples, the Amazons, and they all have like in-house recruiters, but then, I hear they also use agencies. What do they use the in-house recruiting team to recruit for, and when do they reach out to agencies to help recruit?
Yeah, so I think the way where we use myself as an example, I think in-house teams have a really good ability to hire roles that they're consistently hiring for that don't sit outside of specialization. But when you've got like specialists in data or there's roles that are like really unicorn type, I think that what I say to partners is, look, I understand you've got a really good, strong in-house recruiting team. And I'm probably not going to add much value to that because you guys have already got that locked down, but where I can add value or where we can add value is the bit of the obscure roles, the ones that are sort of left field, the ones that we have a good network in, because we specialize in obviously MarTech and ad tech, and there's roles in there that like sales roles, like for Amazon, for example, they're pretty standard. Account managers, standard. But when you've got people that have got we need a statistician, someone with a background in AI, a PhD, machine learning, they want someone with that kind of background.
So does that mean they're using many different recruiting agencies for many different backgrounds if one recruiting agency is focused on one thing?
It really depends on the recruiter, really. Like, it really depends. I mean, like a lot of, I was very lucky. I got to start build businesses at all different, like across all different roles. So I've got experience in networking lots of different sectors. But you get recruiters that specialize in data analysts or sales or I don't know, web development. So you can get a lot of value out of someone that's just talking to web developers all day, for example, that are working on the latest web technologies, where what the in-house teams are doing, they're putting job ads up and then they're having to like troll through all the CVs and applicants that come in. Whereas if you use a specialist, if they use a specialist, they actually they can get results very quick that way. So it's about complementing the recruitment team. Essentially, if we use us as an example, we complement the recruitment team.
Makes sense. Last question. How does companies like Amazon recruit such high quality talent despite being really stringent on their budget? Amazon sort of, their vesting schedules like 5% after 1 year, 15% after, like they're really tight on their budget, yet they're one of the biggest companies. Yeah.
It depends on the level, mate. Honestly, it depends on the level of role. I got friends over at Amazon, and at all different levels. And yeah, the reason why they do the shares where they vest and you get the first set quarter in the first year, then half in the second, and so on and so forth. It's to keep you there. Because if they give you it all at once, then you could leave and after 2 years and then go to another company and then get your hands on more stock. So it's almost like a little trap to keep you there.
Yeah.
But it really depends. I mean, the people I know at Amazon, they're on fairly good salaries. And
oh, wow.
The things like Amazon, TikTok, Facebook, Google, they're a safe business to go because they're not going anywhere. They've got huge scale. They've got buying power. So as a candidate, especially if you're looking at like COVID, if you're working at Amazon, you're not getting fired because Amazon has tons of customers because everything's getting driven online. So I think in terms of, in terms of those big companies, like they've got very good brand presence. People know if they get a job there, they've got a job there for a long time. You look at people at Google, the average tenure is anywhere 7 to 12 years. They don't want to leave.
How do they have such long retention times of employees?
Because it's cool, right? It's cool to own a Mercedes Benz versus a Ford Falcon. It's the same thing. Like I don't know. I think just in terms of it's cool to work at Google. Look at me, I work at Google. I'm working at the best technology. It's kudos. I think it's just human nature to want to work.
Do they counter offer a lot if their employees get poached?
Well, they're always working on exciting new innovation because they've got tons of money. They're always working on new innovation. And I think that comes down, it's not down to, it comes down to your question earlier on. It's not about how much money you're offering a candidate. It's what are you working on in that business that's interesting. And once it starts getting uninteresting, then that's when candidates start leaving. But if you're constantly evolving, companies that invest all their money back into technology, they're constantly building their brand, building out new products and new features of, say, a platform, or that people want to stay there because they get involved in this new innovation. And if you're a company where there's always constantly changing, constantly evolving, then that's exciting. But it's when you're at a company where you've got one product, it's not evolved since 5 years ago. Well, then what are you learning new? I think it comes down to, what am I learning? What are the companies, are the companies innovating? Have they got a really cool culture? It doesn't come down to money. So even if you've got someone that's on a fairly low pay, if they're working at I've had candidates that are willing to drop 50, 60K in their base salaries at a senior level to get a foot in the door at some of the companies we're working with.
Wow.
Because they know that they're constantly evolving, and they're a publisher, but they want a foot in the door of a technology company, because that's where the exciting stuff happens. So yeah, it all comes down to what's going on in the business, how exciting it is, and what innovations are happening, how the cultures, how they're being treated, what flexibility they offer. It all comes down to that. Money's really not a kid. I never phone a candidate up and say, hey, I can get you 100 grand more. Are you interested in this opportunity? If a candidate tells me, hey, if the first question is, well, how much is it paying? Look, I know money's important. We all want a Ferrari in a mansion, but at the end of the day, if they're not asking about the opportunity first, it's kind of like, I'm kind of thinking, well, how motivated are they? Is it just by money? Because if it's by money, that means they're only going to stay at a company for a short amount of time until someone else offers them some more money. So that company's not going to get a good tenure out of that person. They're going to invest a lot of training and development into someone. But if you've got a person that's just moving around for money, then they're not really a great employee to have, because you're going to have to start again, because you've just invested all that time and effort to training someone and they're moving. But when you've got someone that, look, I'm really keen on the product, I really love the business, I love the mantra, the whole vision of the business, really looking for longevity. And I think that's when companies are going to invest in people, and then they stay at a business for a while. But as long as they're progressing, if you're at a company and it's not progressing and it's becoming stagnant, don't stay there. Change it quickly. Otherwise, it will affect, like, loyalty costs. And if the company's not into it, like, at the end of the day, just because you love your boss and they take you out and they favor you over others, if that company's not innovating and helping you build your career, then change it quick. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, again, loyalty comes with a fee, and that's becoming stagnant in a role. And whilst everyone else is progressing up the ladder, if you stay at a business that's not innovating, and it could actually affect you in the long term.
Makes sense. I really appreciate your time today, Nick. Where can people find more about what you're doing if they want to learn more from you, or they need help from you?
If they just look for Nick Squires at 37Talent on LinkedIn, and drop me a message, I'm happy to have a chat with anyone. Obviously, I always make time for people, so I'm happy just to discuss. If you've got any friends that sort of reach out from the podcast or anything like that, I'm happy to make time to talk with people and give them advice and everything else. And yeah, I can be found on, I think LinkedIn's the best one, because that's where I'm pretty much spend nearly 100% of my life. So yeah, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, and yeah, certainly willing to help where I can.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate your time today. I just love your passion and the breadth of knowledge you have in here. Your story is really inspirational, from like, homelessness to like figuring it out. And you're like really a go-getter. You learn everything yourself. You build your own website. So you're really the real deal, and you've done everything from A to Z. And I can really just feel that through the screen from you. So thank you so much for your time today.
Mate, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. So yeah, guys, this is another episode of The Flip Side. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys got some value from listening to this. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week with another episode. Peace.
See ya.